All right, let's talk about The Barn. I finally saw it. Thank you to Mike Anthony for letting me borrow a copy of this movie. It's never getting released on VOD, so yeah, I would have fucking waited till the day I died and never have seen this movie. So I'm not big on buying movies that I've never seen, and that's the only way that you can get this movie outside of borrowing it from somebody or torrenting, which I would never do. Now, let's talk about this film. I have known about this film for a while. A buddy of mine told me about it. He met the director. They were releasing movies at the same time, and he was like, man, keep your eye out for this, and I always have. The poster for this movie was just fucking fantastic, and that sold me alone. I know we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover kind of thing, but man, we as horror fans, we die for a great poster, and it's usually what got us to rent the old VHSs in the, the video stores back in the day when we were plowing through the aisles and being like, what's this? And you found like April Fool's Day, and you found Sleepaway Camp 2, and you found like these amazing cover arts that they had. You were just like, I gotta get this. And this poster sold me like crazy. And, also in addition to that, my buddy saying to keep an eye out for it. So they went all in with the merchandising on this as well. Like, if you go to their website, they have like an 8-bit NES video game that they made for this movie, and it comes in like an 8-bit, NES looking cartridge. It like plugs into your computer, but it's still cool that it comes in that. And they sell it on VHS, and they got posters, and they got everything you can imagine. It's really cool shit. So if you really like the look of this movie, if you really like this movie, you should definitely be checking out their merchandise, because it's some cool stuff. But let's get into the movie. Now, the guy who made this clearly has a love for horror, and especially 80s horror. This is an 80s homage horror film. It is an ultra low budget film. I would guess somewhere in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. And it is extremely impressive for that budget. As far as like an homage 80s throwback kind of film, I've always said that The House of the Devil is the best homage horror throwback film I've ever watched. I genuinely felt like I was watching a movie from the late 70s. It's an incredible feat. Now, Ty West clearly had way more money and better trained actors to work with, and so that's kind of an unfair comparison. But I think that with what this film had to work with, man, it's really, really good. And if you're a fan of ultra low budget throwback homage slashers that, you've felt like you haven't seen a lot lately. I've seen a couple lately, Secret Santa being one that I always rave about by Mikey McMurrin. But this is another one that I really enjoyed. I only had one issue really with it. It was a fairly big issue, but outside of that, and I'll get to it. But let's stay positive first, because I'm more about the positives. This movie is all style. This guy loves the 80s, and he puts it on full display here. While it is obviously a big time homage to the 80s, I feel like the guy still retains a sense of his own style. And the character design, my favorite part of this movie, absolutely, is the villains in the movie. The three main villains in this movie, which I'm just guessing were modeled after, not exact, but they just, for me personally, just the cover of the poster and the way they look in the movie, it just reminded me heavily of the masks from Halloween 3. I could be wrong on that, but I would say they have at least some influence, especially the pumpkin. Speaking of the pumpkin, I was very impressed by the fact that they were able to get like flames behind the eyes, and it like lit up every time he came on screen. Awesome choice. Looks great. The music is really solid as well. It doesn't rely on like complete synth like most people do when they do 80s throwback. They throw in some like rock guitar and stuff in it as well, which really amped it up. And I like that. I appreciated that. The only issue I had with the film is I really didn't care a hell of a lot about a lot of the characters, and I feel like the reason that is not just because they're not the greatest actors. I mean, this movie wasn't calling for that anyways. Even if they could give good performances, it's purposely cheesy. But I don't really feel like that's it as much as it is that the dialogue in the film isn't extremely interesting and or comedic. And I feel like it needed to be one or the other or both. And it's not like all the dialogue is terrible or anything like that. I don't think any of the dialogue's terrible. I just think that, you know, the lion's share of it is sufficient. Like, it's just kind of like there to push along the story. And it's like, all right, well, we need dialogue here. And it just is there. And I was just kind of like, okay, moving on to the next thing. Like, let's get back to the killers. Let's get back to the, you know, folk tale kind of feel of this movie, urban legend kind of thing, which I always appreciate and I really liked. But yeah, the dialogue wasn't working for me as much as I wish it had. I wish I was laughing more, and I don't feel like I laughed almost at all. And I feel like this is a film that should have really fun dialogue, like really clever, witty banter and whatnot. So that was the only thing that was working for me. But maybe, you know, if I watch it a couple more times, it'll start to click and I'll come back and I'll be like, I was wrong. Like, now I love these characters and I'm more attached to them, and now their dialogue's working for me. I don't know. But for now, I just felt like that was the one thing that was bogging the film down. But other than that, man, I'm highly looking forward to this director's next effort, 1031. I saw that was out now, so I'm gonna try to find that. Hopefully I don't have to wait years before seeing that one, but you never know. Cool style movie though. Really, really happy with it. Absolutely check it out if you're into these kinds of movies. But until then, guys.